This week on the programme, as SpaceX, OpenAI and Anthropic head for mammoth public listings, governments on both sides of the Atlantic are racing to define their relationship with the AI industry. In Washington, that's taken a rather surprising form. Here is President Trump speaking to reporters on board Air Force One.
There's so much money and it's so big that there are concepts where pieces could be given to the American public, where the American public essentially becomes a partner with the company.
In other words, then, that is the US government taking a stake in the AI companies themselves. And to tell us more about this, Peter O'Brien, our tech editor, with me here in the studio. So what then is Donald Trump's plan?
Yeah, hi, Nadia. CNBC reported on Friday that OpenAI and the White House are in talks for the government to get equity in the company. Now, we're short on details at the moment, but it looks like they're going to follow a plan proposed by OpenAI, which they've called a public wealth fund. The idea is that the government takes a stake and any future benefits that they reap from this will be distributed among ordinary American people. That's pretty unprecedented as these things go, although last year the government did take almost a 10% stake in another American tech company, Intel. However, this time OpenAI's plan is for the money not just to go to the Treasury, any returns on investment that is, but straight into Americans' pockets. Okay,
but does a stake like that give the government any control over how the companies actually work?
Well, on paper, no.
Yeah.
For the Intel one, it was structured as a passive holding, so no position on the board for the government, and the government still had to vote with how the other directors voted. But critics did point out that this is the same government that regulates the sector, that's its biggest customer, decides who these companies get to sell to abroad. So obviously, if they've got a big stake, there's a conflict of interest there, clearly. You can't be the referee of a team that you own a almost 10% stake in, right? Having said that, this OpenAI structure, if it does go ahead like that, looks different. You could argue that they sidestep some of that with the money going to American people instead. But you can see there's a clear political motivation there for this to go well and for OpenAI to do well, because then the government's seen like they're giving money to American people.
OK, well, let's talk about what's happening on this side of the Atlantic. The EU has unveiled its own tech policy package this week.
Yeah.
What is the European approach to this?
Yeah, so the American approach is very much a resolutely American one, like putting their hands into their wallets and buying up a share of this exciting technology, literally. Whereas in the EU, we've got this new package of rules that are going to be coming into effect. So we've got the new Cloud and AI Act and a new Chips Act as well. And the idea is actually to remove some of the restrictions on AI development and industry that there were before, because there have been years of complaints about the EU over-regulating and under-innovating. But it still remains very much European in the sense that the priority is European industry, building that up, and also still making sure that European data remains in Europe as much as possible. Let me give you an example of how this might play out. Mistral, France's AI champion, we know now it won't go toe-to-toe with OpenAI or Anthropic, barring some amazing development. But that doesn't mean it can't be a big player and a go-to player in terms of European tech stacks that don't want to be reliant on American technology or don't want sensitive data to go to the US. So they might benefit from this. In terms of Europe's one truly global AI champion, which is ASML, as a reminder, they make the machines that make the high-end chips. We couldn't have the AI revolution without ASML. Well, they've tied themselves to the European project. In fact, they bankrolled Mistral itself. But Christophe Fouquet, CEO, when he saw this package, did have some thoughts to share. He said that all the supply side incentives in it could actually mean that Brussels, in his view, still wields too much control over AI development in Europe.
OK, well, let's bring this back to the IPOs then, because one of the biggest of them, Anthropic, does seem to be charting an entirely separate course.
Yeah, they're weird. Anthropic is a weird company.
OK.
So Trump, in the soundbite we heard earlier, said that he's talking to all AI companies about this potential equity idea, but reporting has it that Anthropic aren't invited to the table. Whether they'd even want to be, don't know. The relationship with the White House is frosty. The Pentagon earlier this year said that government agencies could not work with Claude, which is their flagship chatbot. Now, barely a week after filing to go public, Anthropic is now saying that society needs a final say over whether to pause advanced AI development or not. That's not the kind of thing that the White House likes to hear. And I think here we can see again Anthropic's strategy of trying to look as independent as possible, trying to have its own ideas on ethics, and really, making people, potential future shareholders or people who are going to buy shares believe that it's not going to simply become an arm of Washington or Brussels, for that matter.
Okay, just a final question for you then. The market test is coming up soon.
Yeah.
How big is the wave of listings that we're talking about?
Biggest in history.
Really?
Friday, we've got SpaceX, which, as a reminder, is now an AI company as well, since they bought XAI, another Elon Musk company, earlier this year. And then later in the year, we're going to have Anthropic, we're going to have OpenAI. Together, they'll be valued at close to $3 trillion. And the scale of it, the fact that they could actually invite as much capital in just a quarter as the entirety of new IPOs have introduced over a decade in the US, that's according to analyst Thomas Tungus. That scale means that's why the governments are acting now, right? The US wants to have its share before things get complicated with these companies being public. And Europe is seeing this looming introduction of new American tech behemoths and thinking we need to level the playing field and we need to try and close that gap if at all possible.
All right, well, we will see what happens. Thank you so much, Peter O'Brien, for us there. And this has been Tech 24.